Hello everyone and welcome to HTML Basics 3. Today we will be covering tables, and if we have some spare time we will cover divs and spans as well. So let me just show you how I set up the project. Like always, Lesson10, then table intro.html, open it here and open it in Notepad++. So I pre-wrote this once again and I added a title, tables. So tables are our main topic today. So what are tables and why do we use them for? So we use them to store tabular data so that it pretty much becomes easier to read. There are many tags and elements actually associated with tables, but it all pretty much starts with the table tag. So let's just add a table tag because that's what's used for tables. That's how it starts off. So if you just save this and if you reload, you won't see anything, no tables yet. So that's because we need to add rows and we need to add columns. Now before we add that, I want to make this clear. So there are three parts to the table. We're going to cover only the first two today. There is a head, there is a body, and there is a footer. Now the head will pretty much contain information about the table, just like the head tag of our HTML document. And while the body is going to contain the actual tabular data, just like our body here of our HTML as well. So let's just create the T head and closing T head and opening T body and closing T body tags. And let me just open them up like this and get them ready for writing. Okay, so now we have that. Now still, if you save and refresh, you won't see anything yet. Okay, so we know that a table consists of rows, right? Rows and columns. So in HTML, we always start off with rows. So how many rows are we going to have? In this case, let's just use 2 rows. So we create rows with the TR tag. T stands for table and R stands for row. So let's create 2 table rows. Here they are. Still, if you save and refresh, nothing happens. Now you might be wondering, how do we create the columns? Well, the columns are going to be created inside of table rows. Now it's kind of difficult at first to wrap your head around it, but if you practice a bit, and we will practice in the recap lesson after this, you will get the hang of it. But you use the table data element to create columns. So let me just show you, for example, if I write name here, if I save that, if I refresh it, you can see name here. Then I can add another table data element, but notice that I'm adding this table data element in the same row, so it's gonna go to the right side, and let's say Maxim. So if I refresh this now, you can see it's in the same row. So we have 1 column, we have 2 columns. Then let's just copy and paste this just to save some time. And let's just rename this to age, for example, and let's add, I don't know, 16. Now if I refresh, you can see I'm adding it to the second row. So I'm using the second row, right? And I have 2 columns in here, age and 16. Now you might see like a table forming right now, but why don't we see any lines? Well, that's because we have to modify the border of the table, and we modify the border attribute. Okay, so we're gonna set it to 1 pixel So the border is going to be 1 pixel. And immediately you can see we have a simple, so let me just zoom in, control and mouse wheel, just so you can see it better. Okay, now, so we covered that. Okay, now I think we can move on to the table head pretty much. So the head of the table is pretty much going to also contain table rows. Okay, so we create a table row, and let's say table, but here you're going to use th instead. Th is table head or header, table header or table heading. So what this will do, it pretty much works the same way like table data, but it's just table header. So it's pretty much the title of the column or the row. So let me show you what I mean. So if I change this to Maxim and this to, I don't know, 16, and then I change this to, I don't know, Josh, and this to 18. If I save it, you will see it here. Ignore this for now. So as you can see, I just changed it. So now I'm gonna say name, and then in the same row I'm going to add age. th, save. And now as you can see, name and then all the names, age and all the ages. So yeah, it pretty much works the same way as the table body. It just uses a different tag, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Now if you wanted to add a title, I usually do it this way. Most of the time actually I do it this way. I also create another table row, and then I add a table header or a table heading, and I say, I don't know, my table. So this is how it's going to be called. Now let me just show you, if I leave it like this, how it's going to look like. So it just only takes up 1 column, but I want to stretch it out all the way to this edge. That's what I want. I want this to be my title. So the title of my table. So how do I do this? Well, you once again have to use an attribute. And here, in this case, we use the col span attribute. So the column span, how much it's going to span over. So we want to col span 2. So we want it to take up 2 columns. If I refresh this now, you can clearly see it. It looks much better. Of course, I can write 3 here. Let me just see how that's going to look. that looks ugly. But we're going to keep it at 2. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Don't worry about making it pretty yet. You can change colors and maybe even play around with padding, but we're not going to cover that now. We're going to cover that more in depth in the CSS course. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to show you, some of the basics of tables, just so you have them in your pocket. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, so now let's cover div and span really quickly. So once again, I went into project and I just added this div and span.html file, and I open it in here. Now this is the table one and this is the new one. So actually I didn't pre-write this. So let me just quickly do that now, because I forgot to div and span. Let's just save that. Okay, so you can see it here. I open it here. Okay. So div is the one we're going to cover first. So div is probably one of the most versatile structure tags available to you. And it's short for division pretty much, so division, and it allows you to well, divide your page into kind of like containers. This will really come in handy when working in CSS later. This will really come in handy, you will see. So let's just create a div. You use the div tag, short for division, of course. And yeah, so this is a container. We just made a container. Now if you save this and if you open it up, you won't see anything once again. Let's actually create a couple of them. I'm gonna make 3 of them. And let's style them, okay? Using the style attribute. Let's set width, or actually let's first set the height to, I don't know, 50 pixels. Then let's set the height. Now we're doing this just like we did with the images, if you remember. We used the style and then we set the height and width. Oops, wait, I set the width and height of images. So we're doing the same with divs. And we're gonna set the background color to, I don't know, blue. Now if you save this and open it up here, you will see a blue blocks. It's 50 pixels wide and 50 pixels high. Well, that's interesting. Let's make another one. This time let's make the height, I don't know, 150 pixels and the width 45 pixels. And then let's make the background color red. So you can already see, oops, what did I do wrong? Did I do something wrong? Wait. Yep, I did something wrong with the width. As you can see, it's 45 pixels and what, 150 pixels high. And let's make one more. So as you can see, you can play around with this. It will really come in handy later on. As you can probably imagine, when making buttons for websites and stuff like that as well, it's going to be really useful. So height, I don't know, 10 pixels, width 15 pixels, and the background color can be green. So if I reload this, once again I probably, yep, why do I always do that? And there we go. So that's something to play around with. And now let's move on to span. So let's say I add a paragraph or something like that. Let's say I add a paragraph like, hello, my name is Maxim. What's up? And let's close that. So let's just take a look. Okay, we have our paragraph there. Okay, so while div allows you to divide web pages up into these containers or pieces, however you want to call them, that you can actually style individually, span will allow you to control styling for smaller parts of the page, such as text, for example. So with span you can style text more easily. So let's surround something with span. So let's say I surround this with span, and then later on, of course, this is once again going to be more useful when we learn CSS. But for now, we can do some inline styling once again, and we can style this, and let's say color red. So if I save this, if I reload, as you can see, it changes the color. So yeah, that's pretty much it. In the next tutorial, we will be reviewing everything we learned up until now, by making another simple project. So stay tuned for that, guys, and see you next time. Bye.